Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Return on Wellness. We are here on site at Canyon Ranch in Woodside, California. That comes with plane noise, bird noise, and potentially motorcycles and exotic sport car noise from Highway 35. So bear with us, but we are going to make this an enjoyable episode nonetheless. I am joined. I said joined. I was prepping myself.
Oh, you're so joyeux, so joyeux.
I said that is fantastic.
And we tune into joy here.
And that is not being edited. We are going to leave that in. I am joined by Jean-Marie. Yes, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Please give us your full name and your official title here at Canyon Ranch.
I'm Jean-Marie Mudd, and I lead our spiritual wellness here at Woodside Canyon Ranch.
Okay, excellent. So with that, I'd love to understand a little bit about your calling to come here, because I feel like how you ended up here is such a severe understatement for someone of your caliber.
Thank you. Thank you. We are all highly trained spiritual companions across all the Canyon Ranch ecosystem with the Masters of Divinity and Theology and life experience in companioning people through transitions, loss and grief, celebrations, and making sense of life through good times and hard times. My journey here to the Woodside Canyon Ranch actually started in the Tucson Canyon Ranch, where I was part of the team for several years and really believe in the vision that was set forth by our founders, Mel and Enid Zuckerman, that we deliver integrated whole person wellness, body, mind, heart, spirit. None of those things stand alone. All of them, when in harmony and synergy with each other, yield transformation. And that's why I'm here at the Woodside Canyon Ranch, because we are the smallest of the Canyon Ranch resort offerings. We're in the ecosystem of Canyon Ranch, we're a retreat center. And that's a terrific opportunity to engage our entire team, from culinary to outdoor to our fitness team and spa, and all who provide mindful meditation and yoga, into an integrated whole of our program offerings. So we are very unique here in this intimate setting, in the beautiful silence of the redwoods, along with the bird song, along with the creativity of the human endeavor, and we embrace it all. We embrace it all. And so traveling here from the Sonoran Desert, which I love very much, and finding the beauty in the redwoods and being part of this redwood ecosystem has been awesome, because there's so many lessons we learn from the forest and from one another. And when we have individual work with people who come on their leisure weekends, or corporate groups who come to understand their place in the ecosystem, we can offer that experience right here, nestled in the woods.
I think the thing that I have been overwhelmed by here was just the immersion that takes place when you set foot on property. Mm-hmm. By the way, did you have anything to do with how far down the rabbit hole will you go?
We work with that saying. We actually received that when we acquired this property, and we maintained that along with several of the other unique features of the land here. And so I love to engage all who come in an exploration about what that means exactly. But I love to invite people into transformation, which is when you go down the rabbit hole, we can be changed forever in a very, very positive way.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things I really appreciate about what you said is the fact that it's the whole body wellness. I think back when we started talking about our concept and our justification around wellness at events, we were really focused on fitness. Mm-hmm. Because of the physiological benefits that fitness brings to brain function and whatnot. And the pandy, as I like to call it, really reminded all of us, because that was in 1819, we were first talking about that.
Right.
And then that happened, and it brought all of us into a different place, that wellness was much bigger than fitness. Me especially. I was raised in a very strict religious household. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
So to me, when I heard wellness, I usually tended to shut down, because I was like, I don't need your crystals and your cultiness and whatever. I've I've been there. I'm good. I'm all set. And then about May of 2020, I was I almost had a total mental breakdown because I love to travel. I'm a total gypsy at heart. Like I have to be going somewhere. There's some joke meme about tripophobia is when you don't have another trip on the calendar. But by May of 2020, 2 weeks was well and gone. No idea when anything was going to end, and I literally felt like a caged animal, and it was driving me crazy. And that was when people really started to understand the mental toll that this was taking on people. And the company I worked for at the time, they offered the Headspace app, which was great for someone who was kind of a dummy. Let's say standoffish and like, nope, that's not for me.
Yeah, you had your own fund of knowledge and experience in both directions, had judgment about both directions,
Agreed.
but the crisis that happened through the pandemic opened you to new possibilities.
I didn't have a choice.
You discovered the universe of your inner world and the richness in there, and how that amplifies your physical fitness. And that's exactly what we drive for here. Many people come because they also want stress reduction and don't see how spiritual wellness fits inside of stress reduction, so that you simply think it's a mechanistic experience, just like some people would approach fitness as a mechanistic experience. But actually, when we approach the whole body, mind, heart, and spirit, so heart including vulnerability and emotional intimacy, and spirit having to do with connection to something greater than yourself that we belong to, that we are part of, and that we can clarify our values, find and create meaning, and that leads to our sense of purpose in life. That's well-being. And so it comes alive in everything we are, and what we do, and what we know recently with the Surgeon General's declaration that we have a national crisis of isolation in this country, that people are suffering greatly from a lack of connection. So fostering connection really is an inside job. It starts inside us first and kind of ripples out from there. And so for you, that sounds like that crisis helped you connect inwardly. And then look what you've done. You've brought it out in amplification.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Say I hadn't gone through that journey, right? And I'm going to pretend that I'm an executive.
Okay.
And I'm telling my executive admin, we're going to go do an event at this. I love that everyone behind the camera is like just glaring at me like, oh my God. But it's make believe. It's TV. I tell my EA or my head of events, we're going to go to this property. There's some really great things there, including, and I talk about you. That person has not gone through what I've gone through. How do you take this? I don't even want to use the term skeptic, but the person reluctant or that has had religious trauma, because that's kind of what I equate my experience within the organized religion I was a part of. Two is, I experienced shunning and things of that nature. So that's why religion and spirituality were interchangeable to me, but I don't think they are anymore. How would you help someone understand the difference between traditional organized religion and the spiritual guidance that you offer here? I know that's a big question.
Great question.
But I think it's super important for people to understand.
I think what we all seek is authenticity within ourselves and between ourselves. So when we first meet, most important thing I can do is map where you find yourself in your experience and meet you on that common ground. And then together we explore what it means to you to expand your definition or understanding of your life in the spiritual wellness context, that you're connecting to this source, that you're clarifying your values, you're mapping those values up against your purpose and your journey in your life, in your career, in your family, and in your community, so that meaning making and purpose unfold from that journey. And so when a corporate executive or their team member come to us for this exploration, first of all, we start with this basis of relationship. And if somebody expressed to me what you just did, I will say, I am sorry that you experienced that trauma. And I honor your experience, that that's difficult. And it formed many judgments that you have. Let's explore how we can make meaning at this moment in time and what it is you hope for. Because people really organize life based on our hope, what we aspire to, and what we bring. And if we're willing to look at both the light in our lives as well as the shadow, the good as well as the sorrow or loss, we can actually work together then to create new forms of relationships back home, which is really what we want everyone to have a fabulous experience here. We really want you to take it home with you and in your work team. So often we do start in the forest where we take people down and learn about this ecosystem and begin to think about where we fit in the ecosystem of this land and let the land teach us about our relationships, about our interconnectedness with each other, and what it means to be something part of something so large as this beautiful planet and our place in it and our care for it and our care for one another in meaningful and practical ways. So we take a journey together, and it's very, very customer intimate. It's very much grounded in who you are and where you're coming from. And so we literally curate your experience or your group's experience to match what it is that you intend, because most everybody means to bring good things into the world, to do well as they also do good.
I have to compliment you on being so succinct in things. So I really appreciate your articulation. So thank you for that. I think it's really interesting. I am going to go a little bit off script here because
Okay.
you said some things that I'm recalling other things we talked about in a previous conversation. The fact that you're talking about taking that first step in in the forest and on the land and talking about interconnection. And I know you spent a lot of time in Native American parts of the country where still the way they live.
Yes.
I think when you start thinking about ecosystems and we think about businesses usually can't operate in a silo. They have to be all interconnected as well. But the redwood can't fire somebody like someone in business can, so it's a little different. But um, is that where you kind of first learned about these things, or the parallels there between the land and people and our overall belonging?
Yeah, that's part of my own story and my own journey that I invite others into, because I truly believe, particularly when other belief systems or structures are no longer working for individuals or families, there needs to be some way to connect. Now, for when people have a belief system that works for them, we speak that language. We're highly interfaith trained. But my own journey really came from interacting with the great blue cathedral of the sky and the stars and my land, especially in the Sonoran Desert at that time, and understanding how the indigenous people lived in that rhythm of life that's so meaningful, and honoring that and doing everything we can to lift that up and honoring the ways that still live for us all today. For instance, water is life, as one example. Generosity and thinking ahead to seventh generation planning, which is good for everyone. So my own personal journey came this way, and I find it very effective to companion other people in this way, because pretty much everyone who's rejected structures will say they find some form of well-being and refreshment coming outside. And so we are a nature-based retreat and highly integrated across our team to really support that experience. And as I said, how to take it home, how to be part of your land wherever you come from, how to know your own watershed, how to know how to replenish your own well personally, but also on the land.
That's amazing. I think that's one of the challenges people might be worried about embarking on anything that's spiritual in a corporate setting,
Yeah.
is because for the most part, they say the two things you don't talk about at the dinner table is politics and religion.
Right.
And I think the fact that you're talking about using something that's as neutral as the environment to level that playing field, so that regardless of if people are happy in their structured religion, or if there's someone like me who is like, nope, I'm out, you can find a common ground so that they can all connect. And regardless of what faith you may be, we all live here. And
That's right.
if this is gone, we're gone.
And Dave, I know you're really committed to evidence-based practices in fitness. And so we draw that forward into our work as well. And so we know, the neuroscience, that our bodies thrive, our minds are more clear, we have more capacity to live and breathe from the heart, and let the spirit rise when we go outside and let the light in our eyes. And that you find that phrase of light in the eyes in almost every sacred text in the world. That's just a deep wisdom. So learning those practices, and now we can translate those into the neuroscience for stress reduction, for improved cardiovascular functioning, for better healing. So we work a lot with physicians and health providers here. We have the continuing medical education credential to offer a variety of ranchside presentations, we like to call them, or fireside chats, that allow people to connect around their own well-being, but the well-being for others, and how to foster that. And the science backs it. And the more the neuroscience is proceeding with the new technologies, the better it gets. But they echo the teachings that are thousands of years old.
I had a previous guest who used the term ancient practices meets modern science.
Mm-hmm.
Because she is a practitioner in a number of modalities, and she's like, look, we're not doing anything new. We're just going back to the things that we forgot we used to do.
Right.
Because this world has distracted us with shiny objects.
Well, shiny objects are sometimes just bureaucratic routines that squash the spirit. And when people...
To drive compliance.
Right. And so when people don't feel that sense of authenticity, as we talked about earlier, then everybody shuts down or reluctant to even try it out. When we can find that intersection of your own natural way, the amplification of the science, and the connection of the mystery that is available in our spiritual teachings globally, and we respect them all, we honor them all, and we lift them up for everyone to connect the dots, and then in practical terms, take it home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We've talked a lot about a number of things. I'd love if you could kind of give an overview of the types of service offerings, and then I don't want to say if you have a favorite, because I feel like that it's like someone who has a lot of children trying to pick their favorite child. They love them all. There's still usually a favorite, but I'd love if you could kind of give a little bit of an overview of the spectrum of offerings that are here, and then on the back end of that, talk about the one that you have seen people are usually the most willing to try, and how they come out on the other side of it, so to speak.
Well, throughout every week, we offer 8 to 10 presentations.
Okay.
A good third of those are held outdoors, so that you can learn to be up and moving in the practices that allow you to connect body, mind, heart, spirit, but more deliberately, so that you can cultivate and harness the power of your intentional attention and capacity to have transformation in your life. Across our individual services, we have a range from the general kind of spacious, what is it you're here to work on, and how can we support you? What are your practices? How can we give you some new practices? What are some resources we can offer you? Spiritual guidance. All the way to soul journey, which I mentioned previously, this soul journey, non-ordinary waking dream state, where you have a neuroacoustic adventure, one that actually allows you access to your internal wisdom. In that access to your internal wisdom, to have an insight, to have a flash of inspiration or creativity. Many artists actually come here and allow themselves into this experience so they can take it home and work with it for their next creation. Some people come because there's something deep on their hearts. They're stuck. They don't know how to process it. So this opens possibilities for them. That tends to be the easiest way in for people who are new to this work of spiritual wellness. And the second most important selection people often make is cultivating life on purpose. Because again, that sense of meaning and purpose has been really severely impacted by the last 4 years. It's not getting easier now. And people across the age span, across demographics, across the country and the world are coming here because they've suddenly connected to the possibility they've lost touch with themselves. What are they doing with their lives? Something happened and their work fell apart or transitioned them out. What are they about? And what I love is that people are resisting the frightened impulse to run towards doing and spend some time getting to know who I am and who I mean to be, so that what I do is an expression of my authenticity. It's a really powerful service. Sometimes people have that connection also because there's been a loss in their lives, a loss of a loved one or career, a home, even beloved pets. And grief and loss and remembrance is part of what we do as well. Body spirit connection. We do duets for couples who are learning to speak together in new intimacy with one another, or to seek renewal of their vows, commitment to each other, and how to be able to allow themselves into a celebration of this through a rite of passage. So we actually offer ritual processes as well to mark these transitions or celebrations. And we use everything from our singing bowls to shamanic drumming to processes where we literally physically let go what doesn't serve us and call into our lives what does serve us.
That is an incredible overview. I don't know how you keep it all straight, especially with that vast variety. I feel like, I mean, it was 100 years between pandemics, essentially, right? Spanish flu was
Right.
1918 to 1920,
Yeah.
approximately. And the world just kind of marched on for a number of decades, obviously, almost a century. So pretty much everyone who was alive and working, they lived their life the way they had always lived it. They kind of fell in line. The world was just kind of moving on. And then this pandemic happened and just blew everything up for everybody. And I feel like there's a lot of people, just to strike on your point, there's also a lot of people who probably didn't have any intention with their life. And they just were going through the motions because that's all they knew. That's all any of us knew.
Yeah.
And this great pause that happened, it gave all of us an opportunity. I know in the events industry, all these people said back to normal. I don't curse very often, but I was like, fuck normal. Let's come back better.
Right.
We've all been given a gift to reevaluate what's important to us, what isn't important to us.
Right.
Why are we just doing what we were doing, and why aren't we doing what matters? Yep. And that was the big takeaway for me, was that I had always done what I did because that's the way it had always been done. And when you got to come back after not doing things the way they had always been done, why would you just do them the same way?
That's awesome. You're echoing what we're seeing happening in younger people who are questioning.
Thank you, because I'm not that young,
everything.
So I appreciate that.
Right? That's one of the benefits of a disruption of the magnitude of the pandemic. And there is a significant struggle around that, a struggle for meaning, a struggle for equity and inclusion and mercy and justice. That conversation is very much alive, which is why we actually see quite a few young people who come to the ranch exactly for this conversation. And that is a relatively new population for Canyon Ranch. And it's a terrific opportunity, because if we can be supportive of their journey and they become the leaders of people who lead more people into this conversation, we can actually engage in the conversation that you for the world.
I think that's a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for sitting down.
Awesome.
I know your time is valuable. We sat down for like a half hour, so I really appreciate and value it.
I love what you're doing. Appreciate the great talent around that bring this alive, and yeah, I'm going to hold you in my heart as you venture forward in world-changing ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You heard it here first, everybody. All right. Thank you very much for joining us on this very special episode of Return on Wellness. This is the first time we've been on site at a property showcasing what they offer here at Canyon Ranch in Woodside, California, one of a number of properties they own. They are also one of the top 5 gyms in Las Vegas at the Venetian. You probably know it and have been to it, may not have connected the dots. For further information, feel free to reach out the website for Canyon Ranch. We'll put it in the notes at the bottom. And if you're interested in showcasing your property on Return on Wellness, send us a message. You can email me directly, or you can find me on either LinkedIn or Instagram at David T. Stevens. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you found this beneficial, took away some practices that you can apply in your life.